Howdy folks, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k month. Your Princess Chaotica here. Today we are going to be taking a look at a game that managed to take a series from 5 or 6 million sales to 600,000 sales, from 2 or 3 expansion packs a game to no expansion packs or DLC whatsoever, and from being a franchise everybody loved to being something that's probably dead in the water at this point. Let's take a look at what the hell happened to Dawn of War 3. So first off, this is part 2 of my Dawn of War retrospective. In part 1, we took a look at how the series got to the highs it was at before this is going to destroy it all. You can find a link above my head or one in the description for the video if you want to check that out first, but that's enough stalling. Let's get into this, shall we? In many ways, Dawn of War 3 actually feels more like a sequel to the first game than it does the second. We're back to real-time strategy here with base building, and that resource point capture system that I enjoyed returns. Given how well Dawn of War 2 was received, this was a huge risk on Relic's part. But removing the RTS aspects from Dawn of War 2 entirely had been a risk in and of itself. And that paid off wonderfully. Adding it back here if they had something new to bring to the table would have been just fine. Relic had nothing new to bring to the table, and the stuff that they did bring back from Dawn of War 1 just wasn't implemented well. Right away, the game's visuals catch the eye extremely unfavourably. For starters, who's this? Yeah, I know it's supposed to be Gabriel Angelos, a character incidentally the game thinks I'm far more invested in than I am, but who is it really? Gabriel Angelos looked like this. Why does he now look like F1 legend David Coulthard's 11-foot tall cousin? Heroes appearing comically oversized like this are one of the many nods to MOBAs, and that's something we're just going to have to talk about in this video, I guess. Right after I show you how comical these Marines look. Seriously, I know they're supposed to be in the background, but all I can think of is this.
These are small, but the ones out there are far away.
So I'm not going to do a big history on MOBAs here. There are probably people out there who are frankly far more interested in the genre who have done histories of them. All I will say is they evolved from the RTS genre, and the idea is that you only play one sort of hero unit and the rest of the army and stuff is basically automated. It was the most popular thing going on in terms of real-time strategy around the time Dawn of War 3 released in 2017. The most popular one was probably League of Legends. So should Dawn of War 3 just have been a MOBA? Well, that would have been an interesting risk to take, and Relic have taken risks before, as I said. So, yeah, I would have been okay if they'd done that. It would have been an interesting way for the series to go. That's not what happened here, though. So although I am making comparisons to a MOBA here, Dawn of War 3 is still a real-time strategy at heart. You do still have control over all your base building and stuff, as I've said. And I don't know why, but in the single-player portion of the game, that is all done so utterly slow and boring. There were points in the first game where I would be waiting on the resources to build a unit, but I'd have to be defending a point I'd taken or maybe scouting the next point I was going to take. Playing this, I went to make coffee without pausing the game at one point, came back, hadn't been attacked, and I still didn't have the resources for the unit I was trying to build. And the plot for the single player is just so dull. I mean, I know I keep emphasising this, but everything is. And it's so bizarre because I know Relic understood what was in 40k's soul and how to use that up until this point. You see, folks, and I know I'm going to annoy some of the 40k fans again here, but Warhammer 40k is stupid. It's serious to the point of absurdity. That's kind of the point. It's so super serious that it becomes absurd. That's one of the things I love about it. Dawn of War 3 is serious, but it seems to stop short of the absurdity and just ends up being dull. I know I keep using that word, but it never makes it to the point of being absurd. And it's got this really weird attempt going on at being dramatic during its cutscenes. It feels like when you're a teenager playing something like 40k and you're trying to tell your parents how great it is and how they should take it seriously because of how dark and serious it is. That's the level Dawn of War 3 is at. Also, I know I may be using the word serious a lot and harping on this point, so future Iona, no need to point that one out, I see you. Also, if you're going to try and do a serious melodrama, you have to have better voice acting than this.
Claim its treasure, a weapon of untold power.
The mythical spear of Cain. That is why I need to blockade Acheron. To keep the Eldar from getting it. But you've broken my blockade.
I suppose I could play the music from Space Crusade on the Spectrum again to clear out everybody's ears, but I think instead I'm just going to distract you with how photoshopped the victory screens look in this game. Yeah. Now, to the game's credit, we get a single-player campaign that features all 3 of the races in the story. Good stuff. But I just couldn't bring myself to finish it. I wasn't invested in the MacGuffin hunt the plot was, and everything was moving at that snail's pace again. Hell, the game actually introduced me to playing as the Orcs with a stealth section on how to avoid sentry guns. a stealth section, as Warhammer 40k orcs. Reminder, these are the people who spell war as WAH! Nailed it. So the single player sucked, and that was going to turn off a huge amount of players up front, but the game was really more built around multiplayer this time. So what did that look like? Well, first off, the game really wants you to play the multiplayer portion. No, really, when you finish a single player mission, it offers you the choice of quitting, playing multiplayer, and then the next mission if that's a thing you might want to do. In fairness though, some of the issues from the single player are fixed. The game is much faster paced. Honestly, if the single player played as fast as the multiplayer, I would have far less problems with it. And if the multiplayer were a standard RTS, it wouldn't be too bad at all. But again, we have to talk about MOBAs. So, clearly inspired by its MOBA competitors, Dawn of War 3 has an odd hero leveling system going on outside of the gameplay. And if I'm honest, I never quite got to grips with this. I can pick 3 elite units, which I can then summon into the battle themselves, and they all seem to have separate XP bars. I'm not sure if this is for cosmetics or new abilities or what. The game didn't seem interested in telling me. Then, in the game themselves, I do have an enemy that I'm fighting, but instead of trying to destroy them in their base, I'm trying to destroy other random buildings on their side of the map, namely a shield, a turret, and a power core. So in a MOBA, all of that's fine, because you don't control the army generally in a MOBA, you just control that one hero unit. In an RTS, normally you don't have the shield, the turret, or the power core, so you don't have that extra protection early on. Most of the fun in a multiplayer RTS early on is working out, do I build the cheap quick units or the more expensive ones? Waiting for the more expensive ones is a risk unless your opponent's doing the same thing, and you don't know that. That's where half the strategy comes from. Here, however, and I'll admit I only played against the AI because I couldn't get a game against another human being, there's no risk. There's nothing to stop you building your biggest, strongest units constantly and sending them against your opponents. You end up with what's basically like a meat grinder in the centre of the map that very slowly moves one way or the other. Relic have, in essence, made World War I Trench Warfare the video game. The thing is, World War I Trench Warfare wasn't fun. Also, not helping the situation at all was the release of the Linux and Mac versions of the game. These could not be played online with the Windows versions, and that just split up an already tiny player base and was more or less the final nail in the coffin. Just 10 months after the game's release, Relic, citing poor sales, announced they were ending all support for the game, including any planned DLC or expansions. So, do I think we're ever going to get a Dawn of War 4? Well, Relic are currently working on Age of Empires 4, which is another RTS franchise that has a lot of older players like myself very interested in a revival. And contrary to popular belief, not all of the leads from Dawn of War 3 were let go from Relic, though one of them did leave to join Capcom. Ultimately, I'd say the fate of Dawn of War 4 very much lies in Age of Empires' hands. So do I personally want a Dawn of War 4? Well, I know Relic do understand what makes 40k great. Speaking as a fan, I think they're fans as well. And I think what they were trying with Dawn of War 3 was noble. I like to see experimentation going on between genres, but ultimately I think it was a failed experiment. And whilst I don't necessarily believe they will get a shot at doing a Dawn of War 4, I'd like to be proved wrong. So with all of that said, our retrospective is complete and we are leaving Dawn of War behind. We are sticking with the Space Marines though. Join me next week, we are going to swap genres and we are going to take a look at Deathwing Enhanced Edition on the PS4. I will see you then folks, thank you for watching. Peace. I'm out.